That was like, what do they call it? Goat roping? Wow. So I went to clean up my kitchen and was hustling around and was setting up the camera and stuff. And all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, that's me that I just walked by on the computer. I'm literally live and I'm cleaning my kitchen. So for all you people that like cleaning videos, you're welcome. So first thing first, I'm going to wash my hands because I always like to start out cooking with clean hands. It is a habit I picked up when I was teaching little kids in preschool, and you can imagine how many times you really want those kids to wash their hands. So hands are clean. Today we are going to be making easy pie dough, and the reason I am sharing this now, and I'm going to apologize in advance because my fire alarm just decided that it is dead and it needs to be replaced, and it's chirping and it's making me crazy. So anyway, I don't ever remember making pie dough as a kid. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but my dad he always made the pie. So I don't know how or when or why how he made his pie dough. When I became a young adult, I immediately went for the easy to use store-bought pie crust. And it always drove me crazy because you would, back in those days it was a circle, they folded it, and there was always this giant crack in the center, and the pie filling would fall out and stick underneath the pan and ruin your pie, and you'd look like a loser. So when I first started thinking about, becoming a better cook, because I was a horrible cook to start with, everybody starts somewhere, and we're all on a journey somewhere. So along that, cooking line. So anyway, one of the things I wanted to master was pie dough because I was sick of making pie that people, they liked the filling, but the crust sucked. Well, why make a beautiful pie when it's going to be terrible? So I'm here to tell you that you can get away from store-bought pie crust. You can have quick, beautiful pastry in under 10 minutes. Once you figure it out, you'll be whipping these out. You'll be like, I can make a pie, don't mind me, I'll make a pie. Because really, people think that you are like a goddess or god in the kitchen because you know how to make pie. So we're gonna get started. First of all, you need a food processor. If you do not have a food processor, you are going to need one of these handy bad boys right there. This is called the pastry blender. You can also use 2 knives. Everything you do in the food processor, you can do in a bowl with your pastry blender. But I think even Julia Child used a food processor right off the bat to make a pie dough. So, and her explanation was, why make it harder when it's so much easier in a food processor? Or something to that effect. I'm making my own quotes as we go here. So, if you don't have a food processor, you can often find them on sale. Black Friday's coming up. This one is a Hamilton Beach. I have torn through a Cuisinart or 2 in my lifetime, and this little bad boy is a powerhouse. I've also heard great things about the Ninja, and if you're interested, I'll share a couple of links, and we can go from there on, like food processors and stuff. So in the bowl of the food processor, how many times will I mispronounce that? It's up to you. You'll be counting, I'm sure. Let's see. In the processor bowl, I have the chopping blade, and I have 2.5 cups of flour. I am using all-purpose flour. You could use, what did I get last night? You could use bread flour. Your crust will be tougher. It will be a more high gluten crust, but if you were doing something like hand pies or something like that, you would definitely want to use a bread flour because the gluten content is higher. Hold on, I'm going to go get rid of that fire alarm. I'll be right back. Maybe that'll muffle it. I didn't get rid of it. I just muffled it. Fingers crossed, it's making me crazy. So in the bowl of your food processor, you have 2.5 cups of flour. You can use all-purpose. You can use bread flour, like I said, it's a higher gluten content, so it will be a tougher, more sturdy pie crust. You are also going to add to the bowl of your food processor, it didn't go away, a teaspoon of kosher salt. If you're using regular salt, use a little bit less. There's conversion charts online. So put the salt in. You're also going to add a teaspoon of sugar. That goes in. This is going to be loud. And I like to put a towel over the top because you don't know when flour is going to shoot out right up your face. So, and then you just want to give it a couple of whirls. Of course, click it in. You're just getting the salt and the sugar distributed. Then you're going to take 2 sticks of butter, cut into cubes. You're going to just drop those in. You do want to cut them up in advance. If you just throw a stick of butter in here, your food processor will have a harder time getting through it, and you will create a tough crust for your pie by just grinding and processing the heck out of it. The thing about using the food processor is that you want to go really quick. You want to just blitz and go, blitz and go, blitz and go. Never ever just let it run. Once you get like your butter or your water, which we're going to add next, ice cold water. So back over the top with a clean towel, and we're just going to blitz. What you're looking for is getting all of that butter together with the flour, and it's going to be like coarse crumbs when you are at what you want it to turn out like. So see how that's kind of lumpy with a little bit of like bigger and smaller chunks? So we're going to put that back in, and we're going to give it another blitz or two. We're looking for really coarse crumbs right now, not we don't want bigger chunks. We want a little bit smaller chunks than that. So we'll just process, and you can look in the top and see how it's coming along. And oh, that's looking even better. And I think we're there. That's what we're looking for, coarse crumbs. That was so quick and easy, isn't it great? So then the next part of the recipe is not tricky, not hard, but you're going to be adding just enough water. You don't want to just like pour in all the water. The recipe calls for 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup, and you're going to start with about 1/4 cup, and you can blitz it in while it's running. So I've added about half of it. It's starting to come together. You can tell it looks damp. It looks different. Whoa, I just dropped some of that on the ground. It's starting to clump up. So we're gonna go a little bit more, and it's coming together. And I've used about half the water, so we're gonna add half of what's left. I think I'd added a little bit more. And you're gonna just process it until you can hear the change in the motor. It starts to come together in the food processor bowl, and the dough actually starts to kind of interfere with how the motor sounds. So you know how it was like, now it's like, so that means that your dough is starting to clump and it's starting to interfere with the blades. So listen, hear that? That's the difference that you're looking for. At that point, you have almost finished pie dough. I'm just going to give you a check. See how it's clumpy and lumpy? At this point, I like to feel it, see how it's feeling. Does it feel like it's going to be a dough? And when I pinch it, it comes together like a dough. So that tells me it's ready to go. If you add too much water to your pie crust mix, your pie dough, you're going to have a crust that won't really hold its shape, and it'll kind of slump. I mean, it'll still taste good, but it'll just sort of slump in its pie pan, and it won't look as beautiful. You want crisp, flaky layers. You want a pie crust that holds in the bottom, that holds everything together, and you get that by not adding too much water. So, oh, I threw some flour and stuff in here, but there's a little bit of water left in this cup. So we used a little less than 1/2 cup of water. So the next step that I like to do is I take my mixing bowl and I just dump out my pie crust in there, because the last few steps I like to do by hand. It's not really even a few steps. It's just giving it a couple of kneads, pulling the dough together. You don't want to overhandle your pie dough. You want it to stay really as cold as possible. So you don't want to blend the heck out of it in your food processor, and you don't want to smash it together with your hands and melt all of your butter. So I just give it a couple gentle kneads, and then we are looking at almost a finished dough. And then I like to just put it with my food processor on the way and lay it on a clean counter, and I just give it a couple of, feels like you're kind of smearing it across the counter. It's sort of the finishing step in Julia Child's recipe, how she's making pie dough. I don't actually know what it does, but I do it every time. You can skip it. I'm sure it would be fine. So here is half of your fresh, beautiful pie dough ready to go. So let me quickly finish up the next one. A couple of kneads, a couple of just running it across the table. And well, this is beautiful. Gosh, this has come together so fast, you guys. I don't even know how long this video is, but it really is quick. So the next part is really the longest part. So you have two beautiful chunks of dough, and you're going to want to take your dough and pat it out. I like to pat it out about this big. This gives me a starter disc for rolling out pie dough. And the next part is just make two discs like this, put them in the fridge, and let them set up. The trick to this version of pie dough is to keep it really, really cold, to chill it, to keep it in shape. I've also been messing around with a hot water crust. This is a different kind of a pastry the hot water crust is. And the deal with that is that you boil water and your fat together and pour it into your oil. But this is a plain old cold dough recipe. So that is your quick and easy homemade pie dough. You're gonna wrap this up. Let me grab the saran wrap. Sometimes if I don't have saran wrap, I'll just put it in a Ziploc bag, and I'll just stack the discs on top of each other. This time I'm just gonna see if I can wrap two together. 1, 2, and then they're all sealed. They won't dry out in the fridge. They're ready to roll. There's your pie dough. If you come back tomorrow, we can talk about rolling it out. And I'm going to be making a corn syrup free pecan pie, because pecan pie made with corn syrup is too sweet and it doesn't have a lot of flavor. So I am going to share my pecan pie recipe that doesn't have any corn syrup in it. And we'll be rolling out a pie crust for that. And so come back and join me if you want to see how to make a pie crust. Roll it out, get it in the pan, keep it from sticking at the bottom, and crimp the edges. And then I'll be putting that pie dough in the pie in the oven. So there you go. Quick and easy homemade pie dough that people will, they actually won't be able to believe that you actually made this. And it's so, God, it is so quick and easy. And one more tip. If you know you're going to be swamped next week for Thanksgiving, make your pie dough in advance and wrap it like this and pop it in a big freezer bag. So I usually make, 2 or 3 pies. Everybody has what they love. The pecan pie with no corn syrup, and an apple pie for my father-in-law, and a pumpkin pie for the 13-year-old. And then the 15-year-old is like all the pie every time. So I make all my pie dough in advance. I do not double this recipe because my little food processor cannot take a double recipe. So I just, you know, at this point, if I was going to make more pie dough, I would stick it right back in here. Even though there's a little butter and water left, it's not going to hurt it. Then I wrap it all, put it in a freezer bag, push all the air out, and pop it in the freezer. Day before I want to make pie, I go ahead and pull these out, let them thaw in the fridge, and then before I'm ready to pull them out and roll them, I want to just set them on the counter, let them come to room temperature. Not quite room temperature, but you want them to roll out without cracking. And that's one of the big problems, is when you roll out a really chilled pie dough, it wants to crack and just look terrible. So that is it. I hope you like this video. The camera is really far away from me, so I don't know if anybody's commenting, but if you're watching, hi! If you come by later, hi! I hope you enjoyed this video. Share it with your friends, share my recipe. Make homemade pie dough this Thanksgiving, and you will be the queen or king. I don't, no shame there. If you want to be the king of Thanksgiving, that's cool too. You will be the king or queen of Thanksgiving with homemade pie dough. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in.